I used to think HOAs just sent nasty letters, maybe an annoying fine, maybe a snippy email. I never thought mine would send two men in black uniforms who stood at my gate like they were guarding a tombstone. No knock, no warning, no call, just 6 hours of absolute stillness in the Texas sun staring down my driveway until my nerves frayed. And when I finally walked out there expecting threats or maybe a bill, they didn't ask for money. They demanded an apology. To Karen. The same Karen who'd tried to steal my property 2 years back. Yeah, that happened. You want a good hook? Try having the ghost of your worst neighbor haunt you through a police radio. But the creepiest thing, the voice whispering through their radio, hers. If you'd asked me a year ago what scared me most, I'd have said storms. Real gut-rattling Texas storms that rip shingles off the roof and make cattle run for cover. But some storms don't roar. Some storms wear uniforms, memorize your routines, and learn your gate code without ever being given it. Some storms carry an HOA badge. After that lawsuit, when I thought we'd finally put Karen's HOA in its place, life was slow, soft, predictable, just the way Julie and I wanted it. Our little house sat tucked behind a row of old pecan trees outside Austin, the kind that creak in the wind like they're whispering secrets. I did everything by the book, paid my fees, checked the plat maps, kept 5 blocks away from HOA territory. I didn't leave a single thing to chance. And for a long time it worked. Julia worked nights at the hospital. She'd stumble in after a shift, drop her bag, and be asleep before the kettle started boiling. I kept things quiet, no power tools in the morning, no hammering, no noise. Our lives ran on a rhythm, the kind of peace you don't realize you've got until it cracks. That crack started one morning when Julia walked into the kitchen, her brow creased. "Danny," she whispered, "someone was by the gate last night. I tried to brush it off. Maybe an animal," I said. "No," she shook her head. "People." I heard whispering and smelled cigarette smoke. That set my nerves on edge. Nobody on our road smokes at 2 a.m., but I did what any tired husband would. I told her I'd check the cameras, probably nothing. But it wasn't nothing. Motion sensor footage showed a human-shaped blur just behind the pecan tree, standing still, too still for too long. The next morning, Julia found fresh boot prints. Another day, she heard the gate rattle. Later, a flash of light outside the fence, maybe a watch, maybe a phone. Little pieces that add up. I should have trusted her instincts. She works ER. She knows the difference between nerves and danger. Then came the envelope, not mailed, hand-delivered, cheap ink, 3 words. This isn't over. I didn't tell Julia right away. I didn't want her carrying that extra weight. But something changed after that. The air felt colder. The trees sounded different. Even the gravel road outside felt watched. Silence can be a warning, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just the world sucking in breath before the next punch. Julia didn't cling to denial. She just watched. 3 nights in a row, she came home with that look she gives patients who are lying to her. "I heard someone breathing at the gate," she said. "Not an animal. Too steady." I offered some dumb excuse, maybe a jogger. At 2:15 in the morning, she shot back. "Fair point." That afternoon, I found the boot prints again. This time deeper, someone had stood there a long time or just weighed a lot. My stomach dropped. That evening on the porch swing, Julia said it flat out, "I don't think this is random." I agreed. She asked if it was HOA related. I didn't want to say it, but yeah, I figured someone still thought Karen deserved a win. Julia reminded me, people like Karen don't lose quietly. That's the truth. She never lets a grudge die. But sneaking around at night, that was new. The next morning, Julia pointed out a piece of paper wedged in the gate. "We haven't forgotten you." I felt the world tilt. Julia's hands trembled. She was afraid, not for herself, for me. I checked every porch camera, rewound the tape 10 times. Just that same shape slipping in and out of frame, standing still patient. People with good intentions don't stand on private land in the dark for hours. And then the scrape of metal at 3:21 a.m., someone touching the gate. Denial finally died. This wasn't coincidence. This was someone circling our home, someone who didn't care if Julia was alone at night. I tried to believe maybe it would pass, but peace after fear is like someone holding their breath. And sure enough, trouble arrived, just not from my own gate, from the neighbors. Linda, 2 houses down, flagged me with a stack of papers. HOA boundary realignment effective immediately. My property was marked gray, different than the rest. Julia read over my shoulder. What's that mean? It means they want us again. The language was all HOA boilerplate, no county seals, no real authority. But the board listed was acting, and I could hear Karen's voice behind every line. That night, Julia pointed out the weird boundary lines, skipping some houses, targeting others, especially ours. Personal, not policy. And there was a note at the bottom of Linda's packet. Sorry you're caught in this. G. Had to be Glenn, the old treasurer. If Glenn was warning neighbors, he was scared of Karen or whoever was acting for her. This isn't paperwork, I told Julia. It's preparation for what she asked, whatever comes next. The next day, I heard boots crunching on gravel. Glenn, gray-haired shoulders hunched. He asked to speak privately. Julia watched from the window, eyes sharp. Glenn told me Karen forced him out after he refused to sign off on creative accounting. She threatened him with false charges, wrote his resignation letter herself. Typical Karen, didn't need to be right, just needed leverage. Then Glenn pulled a flash drive from his jacket. I kept copies, emails, docs, boundary plans. She wanted to make an example of certain homeowners like you, Danny. He went on, Karen blamed me for everything, the lawsuit, the money, her lost reputation. And when the time was right, she planned to drag my property into the HOA. Glenn apologized for not warning us sooner. I told him, "You're speaking now." He pressed the drive into my hand, eyes damp. "It might be too late," he said. Julia stood behind me, unflinching. "It's not too late, but we need everything you've got. She's already circling this house." Glenn nodded, then left, and that night the world felt unnaturally still. You ever feel the quiet get so heavy you know something's coming? That's how it was. Julia curled on the couch, eyes flicking to the window. Around 11:30, I heard the metallic tremor of the gate. Someone was out there, just out of sight. Something reflective catching the moonlight, not eyes metal. We froze, both of us. Then the shadow melted away. Julia found drag marks in the dirt the next morning, someone standing in the same place, watching. By now it was clear someone was scouting us. Not kids, not the old HOA, someone methodical, counting steps, measuring routines, prepping for something bigger. That Sunday morning, when I thought things might return to normal, I found 2 men in black uniforms at my gate, statues, shoulder-to-shoulder badges, gleaming radios hissing with static. Their stillness was unnatural. When I got close, a woman's voice crackled on the radio. Karen's. I'd know it anywhere. Sean. The bigger one handed me an envelope sealed with red wax. I read it. Demand for apology to Karen. Psychological distress. $7,500 restitution. I stared at them, asked if they were serious. Sean said, "She's been through a lot. You humiliated her in court." I said, "She did that herself. They'd been waiting since 3 a.m., 6 hours. Politely, he said, "Right." I tried to step back, then pain exploded at my head. Sean's punch. James's boot, a blur of fists and gravel, and a woman's voice on the radio. "That's enough. Leave him." They vanished. Tires screeching. I crawled to the porch, blood in my ear, checked the cameras. 6 hours of them waiting, then the beating. I called 911. Paramedics neck brace. Julia's panicked voice. At the hospital, 4 cracked ribs, concussion, bruised kidney. A detective came. The company they work for doesn't exist. Payment came from a discretionary HOA account. Authorization, Karen Little. And there it was, her name finally in the open. The attack made the Sunday paper. Neighbors started talking. Old stories poured out, threats, fines, intimidation. By afternoon, the HOA board resigned, accounts were frozen. Someone leaked financial records, money missing. By lunch, the HOA filed for bankruptcy. The power that ruled the street for years just collapsed. A day later, Glenn showed up, shame written on his face. I didn't stop. What led to this, he said. You weren't the only one, she threatened. He named family's elderly residents, anyone who stood up to her. You weren't wrong to fight her, Danny. You were just alone longer than you should have been. 3 nights later, Glenn came back shoving a folder into my hand, copies from the old HOA cloud. Julia and I plugged in the drive. Protocol docs, audio logs. Karen's voice outlining plans, paper harassment, social isolation, targeting me when Julia was gone, using contracted enforcement off the books. The cold, clinical way she planned to break us. It shook me. The next morning we took it to Detective Reed. He listened grim-faced. This isn't HOA harassment. This is organized conspiracy. The FBI will take it. That afternoon, a call came from an old friend in federal law enforcement. We got her. Karen Little. Chicago PD picked her up running a scam. Her old email gave her away. Your USB closed your case and opened hers. She's facing 20 years. For the first time in months, fear loosened its grip. 6 months passed. The neighborhood softened, cookouts, kids playing laughter on the lawn. The tension that had choked us for years was gone. We hung a hand-carved sign by the gate. This property is protected legally and otherwise. The man who carved it never signed his work, but everyone knew who it was. At our first gathering, folks clapped my shoulder, laughed, told old stories. To good fences and working cameras, someone joked. I raised my cup, and to knowing who your real neighbors are. Later, a note appeared on our mailbox to the man who reminded us, fear only wins when good people stay silent. Your neighbors, no signatures, just truth. That's what lingers most, the feeling that you can breathe again, that the monsters aren't just hiding but dragged out into the daylight. The house doesn't feel like a battlefield now. It feels like home. You ever wonder why some people get targeted? Maybe because they won't bow. Julia put it best. She picked the wrong family. She did. Not every battle ends in a courtroom. Some end with a porch, a breeze, someone you love beside you, and the quiet knowledge that you survived the storm. And as the sun went down behind those old pecan trees, Julia squeezed my hand and whispered, "We're okay." And for the first time in a long time, I could say it back. Yeah, we are. So let me ask you, when do you think justice is served? When the bad guys are in handcuffs? Or when a neighborhood finds its voice again? Share your story, your thoughts, whatever side you're on, because if this tale proves anything, it's that silence is the real villain. And you never know when the next storm is coming for you.